Hello and welcome to CAM Systems training on Corridor Go Mobile Technician's new R&I log functionality. My name's Ken, and I'll be walking you through this new feature set to show you basic navigation and the utility involved in this new feature set within the mobile application. What we're going to be covering today is pretty straightforward. I'll be walking through basic navigation of the R&I system, and then walking through the life cycle of R&I log items within mobile tech from birth to abortion, all the way through from creating, editing, working, status, etc., and show you how flow within the application is going to change by R&I type. There'll be some bulk action information, how this impacts Camp Connect functionality, as well as some other extensions and expansions, which I believe will be of use to you as new users of the features. So let's go ahead and start off by taking a look at what an R&I log list is going to look like within the mobile environment. So in this case, let's pick this particular work order on a fixed wing aircraft. And our landing page for the work order, when we go specifically in, is now going to be our R&I list. As you can see here, we have summary data on a series of R&I items where you're going to have the purpose of the R&I log entry, part off and on information as applicable, and statuses, which we'll go into in a minute. We'll dig into the details here in a moment. Just wanted to make sure you had a little bit of familiarity and comfort with the navigation layout. At this point, you can see we are displaying 5 items, and this is a pagination capable list, so we can either increase the size of our list or keep it tight and page through for speed of loading. Within each of these summary areas on an R&I item, we can expand to get details on the log entry, including part off information, part on information, status of who did what, how far along in the process this particular R&I item is in its life cycle, etc. Very straightforward and very clean. The reason why we provide summary loads prior to detail loads is for speed of loading. Since this is going to be on a mobile device in a wireless environment likely, we wanted to make sure we were loading up just the minimum required data at any given point, and then we'll expand into details as necessary for a given user's needs. Now let's go ahead and dive into a particular R&I item, a most common type, which would be a replacement or a servicing or inspection type R&I. Let's go back to our application here. And let's look at this replacement. Now, as you can see, we do have a series of replacement items here. And you'll notice that we have different status icons listed. Clicking on a status icon will get you the legend, which shows you where we are in the life cycle for this given R&I log entry, starting with nothing happening yet, part not removed, to a removed state, technician or inspector identifying that the item is okay to reinstall, that it has been installed and possibly needs checks or inspections done, and then the reinstallation of the item has been complete and signed off. Now, not all R&I types will provide all of these statuses, but this general flow will cover all scenarios for all R&I types. And once again, at any point, if someone is confused or doesn't remember what these types are, clicking on the status will get you the legend as a reminder for state. So let's take a look at this one that we have not started as of yet. In this case, we started a replacement for a battery, backup battery in this case. We can look at the details of that part that's coming off by simply clicking the edit button. At this point, we can see the part master information, how many were involved, serial number information if applicable, And then, of course, as the unit comes off, the technician can enter malfunction codes or result codes as necessary, TSO, TSN cycle count information if necessary, and then take care of any additional fields that might be of interest given the piece that's coming on or off the plane. Once the piece is correct here and we know what's coming off the plane and we've gathered the details, we can change our work status. So for example, let's say the technician has removed this part. At this point, you'll see our status has changed. Part has now been removed. And from here, if we wanted to, we could go ahead and edit part on information with new part master. Let's go ahead and do that at this point. And let's go with the exact same model. Replacing one with one. Our part off will always match quantity for part on. If we had serial number information or part condition information, we can provide it at this time. Let's say we're replacing with a new unit. Because it is an identical match to the unit, there wouldn't be any change to weight and balance, so we would leave that as is. And of course, when we're dealing with weight and balance, you do get center of gravity information. You can additionally add fuselage station or the zone on the aircraft. And depending on the part type, you may need to enter additional information on part on, such as hardware version, software version, etc. Let's go ahead and apply these changes. So our part on information is in place. Let's say we are now OK to install, and that the part has been installed. As you can see, status for this item has been updated, showing installation date and time. And in this case, there were no checks or inspections required, and our status has changed to the point where this replacement would be considered complete. Very straightforward and very clean as far as the process of removing, replacing, reinstalling parts from the R&I log perspective. Now there are some different R&I types. Some are going to be purely one-sided, such as permanent removals or new installations. The workflows on those are slightly different, and let's go ahead and add one. But from this point, I'm not going to add at the work order level. Let's back out and go to a particular task. Let's go to a first task, and let's go ahead and create a new R&I item for the log from this task. And we'll call this a permanent removal. And when we create our R&I, we'll have to add our part off information in this case. And I'm going to refer to this as a retainer strap. Let's say it is unneeded at this point with the new configuration. Enter the information, enter serial number as necessary, show any extra fields if necessary. Let's apply this information. Now, if I've decided that this information is incorrect, I can go ahead and re-edit and make changes as necessary. Or if I'm satisfied at this point, I can go ahead and add the R&I item, which you now see in our list here for permanent removal. Because it is permanent removal, obviously part on information is not applicable. And we go to work this item, you notice that we have our part off and any defined checks and inspections if they're needed. In addition, if we were to do something similar for a new part, you'd notice that we only have the part on information listed. In the event that we were adding a replacement, which is an on and off, you'd have the opportunity to enter both part off information if you have it at the time, and part on information if you have it at the time. Let's go ahead and replace this strap at this point. We're going to replace it with another strap of a different model. And let's say for some reason when we're doing this, we've decided we need an inspection of the installation and a functional check to make sure that we're holding properly. We have our information in place here. We can apply the item to our R&I log. Let's go to our next page of items. We can see our replacement here. And now, when we look at this, we can see that in our checks and inspections area, when we reach the proper point in the process, we will need to capture and record information on a functional test and installation inspection for the replacement of the strap. Once again, very, very clean, very intuitive on its flow. Now, the primary purpose for R&I log in a lot of work order situations or in a lot of multitask maintenance on an aircraft is going to be primarily for accessing jobs behind another piece or behind a panel. So for that, we have specific functionality related to panel and for access R&I. Let's go ahead and head up to the work order level and create a panel removal and installation. See, we're removing a panel here. I'm not going to worry about serial number at this point. We are going to want to make sure that we inspect the reinstallation of the panel after all work that happens behind it. And you'll notice now, with panels and with for access, we have the ability to continually add additional items of this type. The reason for this is in a lot of situations when you're working an aircraft, you are going to have a junior tech or someone who's helping to prep for the work remove all necessary panels before work begins. And at this point, you can bulk remove anything required to access the tasks at hand, verify everything to the rack, then get to work. Once everything is done, you would then go bulk reinstall all of the R&I items involved. So let's add another. Let's say in this case, we only needed to remove 2 panels. We would confirm our list of panels coming off the plane. And you can see the bottom of our list. We now have our 2 panels listed. Once again, we have an edit part. And in this case, because we know the same part that's coming off is going back on, our label is specifically just for part. There's nothing different about what's being removed from what is being installed. However, that's not always going to be the case. We know that. So within each of these options, for a panel or for access, in the event that damage is found or something of that nature comes about, we have the ability to convert a panel or for access type R&I to a repair or a replacement. So let's say we found corrosion on the back of the panel. It was bad enough that we realized we now needed to do a replacement. I can change this type. We have just converted to a replacement R&I, and now we have individual part off and part on information, which can be edited as the new replacement panel comes into the shop. I'm going to skip around a little bit here because one of the things we were covering just now is a key benefit to R&I parts assembly handling within Mobile Technician or Corridor Go. And that is the ability to have work order level R&I items separate and distinct from task level R&I items. So if we're looking here, we're at our work order level, not at the task level. We can get the sequence of all items that have been pulled from the aircraft as part of this work order that we now know have to go back on the aircraft. In the event that this R&I was created at the work order level because it would impact multiple tasks, you'll see them listed with no reference to a particular task on them. In the event that these R&Is were created as part of a particular task or squawk, you will see that item listed as part of the entry even here at the work order level, with the description of that task as necessary. So a very, very clean way for a lead to look here across the entire work order and see everything that's come off and be able to account for everything that's going back on. And of course, within this work order, whether or not it was a work order level or task level R&I that was created, you'll see unique sequencing here. Okay, now we're at a point where a lead can see everything that is set up on the R&I log for this particular work order, and we can see what's at task level, what's at work order level, of course. Nice part here is that at this point we allow the lead to take bulk actions. So in this situation, we might have a lot of parts that have come off the plane as a junior tech, pulled panels or pulled equipment in advance of tasks taking place. Or we're going through a checklist off the shelf and stating that a lot of parts are ready to go back on the plane. So in this case, let's take a few replacements here. And let's take this one for access, and let's do some bulk actions against them. You can see some of them have already been removed, some have already been installed, some are okay to install. We're going to state at this point that every item that we've selected has been removed, and every item is okay to install. Anything obviously that has already been installed will stay in that state. So at this point, we can go ahead and apply. And you'll see our state change across our items. Very, very convenient. Likewise, if there are particular checks and inspections that apply across our list, we can go ahead and apply those checks or those inspections en masse as an inspector if we were working on groups of R&Is or the list of items on the rack all at once. Now, one limitation to bulk action, this select all is only going to select all within our displayed list. So this would only be the first 5 of our 10. If we wish to apply it to all 10 in our list, we would have to make 2 passes, or we would need to expand the list to cover all of the items. Now, there are some differences in functionality within R&I that are specifically related to Camp Connect aircraft, and it makes sense to take a look at those right now. So let's head back up to our work order level list, and I'm going to go into a work order that is specific to a camp aircraft. So at this point, we've just landed on the R&I log for work order 713. Here are our tasks that are part of work order 713. This is a camp aircraft. And if we look here at our, well, let me find our work order level view. And it looks like step 4 and step 5 are going to have RNI items. So let's go into step 4. We can see here that we have a replacement RNI set related to the main oxygen bottle. It has not been started at this time. But you'll notice that in our indicators here, we have a required field indicator for part off information and a required indicator related to part on information that are specifically needed in order to ensure Camp Connect compliance, make sure that everything is compatible and in line with requirements for CAMP's software. In this case, with any part off, we do need to supply a malfunction code. And in the part on situation, we do need to provide a replacement part condition. You notice that the optional is not present at this point. So while it is our long-term intent to ensure that the completion of RNI items don't stop sign-off or inspection sign-off on a given task or squawk, we do know that we're going to have stops in place at return to service, ensuring that all parts have gone back on the plane, and in the event of this being a Camp Connect supported plane, that we have all the required fields for Camp Connect compatibility. That pretty much sums up all of our training today on Mobile Tech RNI or Corridor Go RNI log functionality. Any additional questions related to this can be forwarded to our sales or implementation teams, and we'd be happy to answer your questions or take your feedback on any future revisions you may see a need for. Thank you for your time. I hope you found this of use.